So if you put your phone down, grab the knife. Knife.
I'm not coming near you with
Knife.
those with a knife.
Get the knife. Look, you showed up for this. Allie would have done it, but no, you took her place. So, here, come take. Get over there. Okay. So, bad guy attacks with a knife.
That guy wants nothing to do
Really?
with
I'm not using those. They're not as cool. So, all right, fine. But please remember, look, when we trade out, these are not much better than her foam nunchaku. So,
Would you like to volunteer?
remember that.
A willing victim? Oh Lord, you have to sign a disclaimer.
This is the no safe room panel. Safe room panel. Remember this.
Careful where you sit.
Ta-da! Doesn't look near as menacing, does it? Congratulations, you're being attacked by Toucan Sam.
I looks like they want
Oh, look!
at some point.
A paradox. So, the cool thing about these, bad guy stabs, you can block, which is also cutting the wrist. It's like assisted suicide.
lost
Dr.
a hand.
Kevorkian would have loved me. And you go here, and then this one would go, remember I said you could penetrate the human skull with these?
Yep.
The downside to that is it's
It
still
gets
kind of
stuck.
tough to do,
It still
and it
gets
does get stuck. And my wife is blonde. That is a harder skull than some.
Uh-oh.
I'm a lot braver when I've already got the knife trapped a little bit. So you didn't normally go for the skull. What you did is you went inside, so where you're going, right inside the collarbone. Now remember the first one. Hold still, dear.
Arteries and lungs.
Hold still, dear. You're bad at this. You never follow my directions on Friday night. I mean, so we're cutting here. This one's going inside the collarbone. There's the depth of the blade. If my wife had a heart, this is fatal. I'm a lot braver when I have the real one now. So,
You'll be paying for that later.
get another room tonight.
So-
They gave us a suite with a separate thing with pull-out bed.
Oh,
there you
he's
go.
sleeping on the pullout.
So I can actually
Shut the
close
door.
the door?
Yeah.
No, I'm keeping Allie. If
I
you
was gonna
get
say,
kicked out.
We're out there in the bedroom and you're on the couch. Yeah.
and you know the fantasy when you travel with two attractive women is always that the guys are all thinking, man, that guy's got it made. No, I'm the one out on the couch.
It never works out that way.
And do you think I get pictures? No! Just door closed, random giggles, and me wondering what that was. Using two of them, not always in a forehand grip. You could use one defensively this way and put the other this way. Not because you're hiding it where they can't see it, but disguising the length like that makes it harder for your opponent to gauge distance for spacing. Okay? So you're here, and if you get somebody who's not really good with a knife, but they're very angry, they overcommit. Weight comes forwards, rawr. Yeah, see, you have a lot of anger in you. So, attack comes in, you're going here out of the way, and this goes, shoop. Because their weight's forward, it goes under the chin,
Right up to the brain.
and through the soft palate, and for our next joke, if my wife had a brain, we're getting the whole Wizard of Oz group ahead here.
You're getting very close to the
I
sofa.
do have a question
Now,
about that.
But, well, most people who train it with knife at all know the first thing you do is tuck your chin. And you put weight forwards on the strike, but it's about 70%. Lunge, like fencing. Your weight's on the front knee down to the ball of the foot. So you're here with the chin tucked. So that second strike, you block, and this doesn't go for the chin, you're actually bringing it here, right
Liver.
under the sternum and up. Because down inside the clavicle, heart. Up from the sternum,
Oh, look hard.
heart.
And lung.
So ladies, when they say the way to a man's stomach is through, or to his man's heart is through his stomach, sometimes it is. We just need the right tool. And see, that worked even though I botched the line, I'm sorry. It was much funnier. We could do a retake, but I'm not a voice actor. You can tell Eric I said that when we go to dinner. And for those of you going, well, wait, I take Taekwondo and we do weapons once you get a black belt, and you don't change your stance. Number one, you're doing it wrong. You change your stance for the balance and go. But if you learn how to, what, we're trading jobs so I can explain it better? I can do that. Okay, so if you learn how to stab with a knife, and instead of overbalancing or even correctly balancing, which is going to get the sternum hit, if you keep your weight back, you're immune to that. This doesn't get hit and this doesn't get hit.
But your wrist is still dying.
Oh no, it's worse than that. I don't like the way you think. If you keep your weight back where it's even or even like 60% on your back leg, when that strike comes in, she's going block, and that's going
Under and up.
Careful you don't get caught in the hip bones.
And for the record, if you're going to kill me, please just put it here. I have plans for the afterlife. Don't involve my brain, but never mind.
Or not the brain eater's call.
Kama was a really, really nasty infighting weapon. It had two problems. One is, it is not sharp on the side when you're holding it that is closest towards your opponent. So this is razor sharp. If you've seen our show where we do test cutting and I cut through straw targets with a sword, we do that with these too. And they're really cool doing birdies where you take mat pieces and throw them and you just because you can just stack them.
Like 4 of them on there.
It's really cool. And very child. I mean, it's a good training
We're very
exercise.
sure.
Not sharp on the side closest towards them. The other problem is it's a very short weapon, so it doesn't work very well against most long-range weapons like swords, the naginata. It does, however, work really well against a basic quarterstaff, or for the Japanese, a bow staff, because she's got both hands on the weapon. And back to these. Bad guy attacks, and you're blocking. This can go anywhere you want. Once you make contact, you trap it, and then just rake down. She's either going to let go, or I'm cutting off her fingers. And then I have a stick, and both kama, and fingers too, in case I needed a snack later.
Ew.
Or black belt for someone. Lady fingers.
See?
Yummy!
But again, not real effective against the longsword because there's too many difficulties with reach. And being able to lock and trap the blade, you can turn the sword and drive, and it's going to cause you all kinds of problems if you're trying to fight off a sober swordsman. You have a question?
Did they ever design those with blood grooves so that it would help with the sticking? Have you
No,
stuck in-
because the kama, I don't know if you got to see the blade up close.
No.
They're farm
You have a history with weapons, so I'm going to hand this to
But
you.
if you have a
Don't
blood
kill
groove-
Stephen, we need him for next year. It's shaped properly, it's narrow. The blood groove thing, and that's actually a big part of a sword lecture. Blood groove in Japanese is called bohi, and the normal term we call them fullers.
Yeah.
They were not, people think when they call it a blood groove, it creates a channel to let the blood run out and make the, it's a misnomer. That's not what they were used for. You use them, number one, to lighten the weapon. Number two, sometimes having the steel shaped like that, the argument is it can strengthen it. There are still engineers and people who say that you can't strengthen something by taking away material. But what it does do on something that's really sharp and penetrative, living muscle tissue clamps down on something that invades it. So if you it's actually easier to stab somebody with an ice pick than it is to pull it out. Don't ask why I know this. Just say we have a very small homeless population. But you're not still recording, are you?
Yeah.
So
Select
that bohi, it's not designed to open a channel to let the blood come out. What it does is it actually provides a break in the surface so that when the muscle tissue clamps down, there's gaps, and it breaks suction. And I was giving that lecture to some of my students, and one of my Aikido instructors now is the head of anesthesiology at the University of Iowa hospitals and clinics. And he went, that is exactly true. That happens in the operating room. And so when people get something stuck in them, they can't get it back. And you don't want to, because when you pull it out, then the blood comes out, with or without the blood groove. I'm on till 10.
Yes.
Are you checking?
Water.
Like somehow I didn't know my own schedule?
Yes.
Look, I don't know where my room is, and I'm not always sure where I live. Because apparently with your mommy is not a good enough answer for the police officer. But I did look ahead, and 3 blocks, 3 half-hour blocks, so I'm not done yet. We have more toys.
Does anyone after you though? Here. Anyway.
the Manriki Gusari, this combo was farm weapon. And I mentioned the second difficulty with it was lack of reach. So if the farm is being attacked by robbers, bringing people on horseback, you couldn't reach them. Not very effectively to drive them off. So what they did is they would attach a cord, just like they did when they made the wheat threshing tools that turned into nunchaku. They would attach a cord to one end of this, and they used it differently than you see in the ninja movies. Now in the ninja movies, they put a chain on it with a weight on one end, and you held the weight in this hand, and you held this in the other, and you would do this hand to hand. He's got a sword, and I've got this, and I'm slinging it around, and I would throw it at him with the weighted chain. You didn't do that against somebody on foot, because if he knocked it down with the sword, which is not a very difficult maneuver, this doesn't move that fast, knock it down, move in, and I've got nothing. The way they used it, the farmers put that cord on there, and when the guys were running around on horseback,
Take on the horse's legs.
no,
They use the weight.
you were very careful with the horses. Horses weren't indigenous to Japan, and so you actually didn't harm the horses. This was meaner than that. You brought it overhand this way, never underneath. Over, over, and then threw it. Not at him, because remember, this part's not sharp. You threw it past him. This way, over his shoulder, and as soon as it came to here, you're holding that weighted end in the other hand,
Back.
you would step back. You threw it and yanked back. And the goal was to hook this between his shoulder blades
Exactly.
and yank him off the horse. And then the farmer's wife and his kids would come out and go, "Damn!" And you took the horse back to the barn. Problem solved.
Look, we sell horse.
Pony!
Make much food.
So that's better than cutting the legs out from a horse. That's a Cards Against Humanity joke. The legless horse that can't stop, never mind. So that's where the chain thing came from, and you see it again in ninja movies and stuff. If you have anybody that plays Dungeons and Dragons, if you're as old as I am, or the second edition when they came out with the Oriental Adventures, on the cover is a ninja, and he's got one of those, and he's doing this, but he's fighting against a samurai on some flying animal. So it actually made sense. I got really mad when I first saw that. I'm like, that's not how you did it. You used it on a horse. Oh wait, he's on an animal. And it can fly. You kind of have to use it as a projectile weapon. You raise your hand, Stephen. What do you got for me? Be polite though, I'm still orange. Yeah, there's a voice from under the table. It's a demon, kill it!
But I feel like you'd have to be really confident with your aim, because if you were to miss, wouldn't it kind of go rocketing back towards you when you pull it and hit you on probably a place
You don't pull
want
back
to?
if it misses.
Well,
Until
when you
after
take
it
it
stops.
past the shoulder, so the goal is you throw it over them. And it wasn't on a really long rope, okay? So you threw it over them, and when you pulled back, you didn't stand and pull. You would stay left foot in front, so you had the,
Right.
and threw it this way with this in your hand, and when you yanked back, when it went past his shoulder, you stepped back and down. So from here, you pull this way, which would bring it down at an angle like this. So at worst, you miss, and it bounces on the ground in front of you.
Got it.
Not straight back, because that's the downside to a razor edge boomerang. Whoa, no, I'm not catching that.
Back to the fingers.
You're
Always.
So, but while we were talking about the chain,
razor it.
my boomerang won't come back.
Hashtag that.
We've reached the point in the panel where we're into whips and chains.
Oh no.
Yay.
This is the Manriki. It's really common. Martial arts catalogs and stuff, when you're ordering ninja weapons, you can get this really lightweight, normally painted black chain that runs 18 or 28 inches in length. And it's supposed to be this weapon weighted on both ends, so you hold one end, you got the other end like this, because you can spin it around really fast, and you let go, and you blink and hit them.
Like nunchucks.
Let me be clear, if you take the, and this is a weighted end, it's a decent chain, but if I took this and whipped it as hard as I could, there's only about 3 places on his body that it would even come close to being debilitating. And just so we're clear, hitting him in the groin is not debilitating. It's painful, but it does no structural damage. And guys who've been hit there before, like predators,
They get angry.
they get angry, and you may throw up afterwards, but it doesn't stop you. So we're talking, it's got to be something traumatic. If you hit him just right in the throat, or here in this little triangle where it's eyes and nose, where it can slow him down. This wasn't used that way either, and they were actually used a little bit differently. For size, these were custom made because it wasn't really complicated to cut off chain. They were measured. So the way you would figure out what size you needed was you put it around your waist and you cut the end so it was long enough to do the basic tying it like this, and then it was tucked inside. Japanese fashion, they wore an obi, and for ladies fashion, that obi was big. It was basically a wraparound
Big
corset.
ass bow in the back.
For the men, the obi was not always, it wasn't usually that 10 to 12 inch one. It was usually 4 to 6 inches, which was a lot smaller. So you would wrap the chain around your waist and then tuck it into the obi. And forgive me, I'm wearing a modified martial arts uniform. It's just a 2-inch belt, not a 4-inch obi. So you're still going to be able to see this on the sides and corners. But if you tucked it in, it meant 2 things. Number 1, nobody could see you were wearing it. And number 2, that's not me having a seizure, I'm trying to make noise.
It doesn't
Because
rattle.
it doesn't rattle because it's tucked in. So if you are out and about in a weapon-free zone,
You're
and
armed.
and we all know that bad guys follow those signs.
Oh yeah,
It
sure.
says, so you're out on the town with your lady and some drunk samurai attacks with a sword or knife. The one thing you don't want to do is go, no!
Fingers,
You understand?
bye!
So instead of reaching forwards, what you do is reach back. Here, so when you pull this out, you put each weighted end into the palm of your hand and would bring this forwards, this way. So what I just made was a flexible shield. Against the sword, it will stand up to 1 or 2 strikes. You don't want to bet your life on a chain against the sword because they can generate a lot of force. So you would try to go, especially against a knife, when that strike came in, you brought it forwards, block the wrist, quick movement, and I have now restrained the knife. And look, did you see when I brought it forwards, how I wrapped one end? I just made myself brass knuckles. So from here, now we're going, no, no, bad, stop. Marriage therapy. Yeah, bite the knuckles. Yeah, you go, girl. And this had use, remember the nunchaku and the trapping stuff? A chain wrapped around your hands could do all kinds of really cool things. Bad guy attacks with a knife, you block it, and if you don't have time to wrap it, because sometimes that's dangerous, it gets the edge close, you're here, follow the arm, use it as a ramp. You're bringing this up under the chin. And if anybody's taken modern Aikido, they have a technique called iriminage. It's an entering throw. For the people who watch Steven Seagal movies, it looks a lot like a clothesline, but it's not.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Where the strike comes in, you're actually catching their energy before they get their foot settled, so you're keeping their shoulders from keeping up with their hips and feet. Here, and turning it over and throwing them violently on the ground, it's one of my favorite moves. It works really well for tall people. A lot of Aikido techniques don't, but that one does.
So that's a good move to use on you. Okay, noted.
No, it's a good move for me to use on you. Iriminage, Sokumanuch, Ushironage. That one's mean and dismissive. She's smiling. I think she has a background in Aikido. So could you move over just a little bit? That's the side I'm going to, and you're running me into the table like it's an accident. So, bad guy attacks, you go here and bring this up. Think about doing a Riminage by having a rope around their neck and throwing them violently on the ground, or chain. And if they're really big and strong, I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but you have an Aikido background, they say size doesn't matter, but honestly, if your technique isn't perfect, size is very relevant because it's harder to tip that guy over than it is you or Steven. I mean, so bad guy attacks and you're here and you're bringing this up and trying to flip a sumo wrestler onto his back. Not working. I don't want to fight, I just want to win. So, here. Look, the surfboard. Somebody should take my picture. This goes in our wedding album. Don't do that. And again, back to the knife fighting thing, you learn to